Hello everyone, I'm Allison Gardner, the CEO of Glasgow Film and co-director of Glasgow Film Festival. I'm doing this interview from my bedroom with photographs of my girls in the background. I'm a late middle-aged white woman with hair that is grey, but wasn't grey before the health emergency. So I'm delighted to welcome our guest here to talk about one of my favourite films of Glasgow Film Festival, Big versus Small. It's a stunning and compelling documentary. I would say moving as well. I felt very moved by it. It's one of I would say one of the strongest documentaries we have in a very strong documentary lineup this year. And it's about Johanna Nordblad, the Portuguese wave surfer, who unfortunately isn't with us just now because she's traveling back from Africa. And so she may not have good internet at the moment. But please do welcome my guests. I'd like to welcome director and producer, Minna Dufton, and Johanna Nordblad, a champion free diver and ice diver. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to
Thank you.
So let's just start with the basics, Mina. How on earth did you discover Johanna Nordblad? Where did you find this story? Because you've been working in TV, and this is your first feature documentary. So tell us a little bit about how you came to this process.
Well, it was through the magic on the internet, as you do. I read news a lot. I have a background in news, and as a matter of fact, it was a BBC News story about women in the US surfing and fighting for equality that caught my eye. This is like 3 years ago now. And I went through the keyhole and, found myself totally drawn to watching people surfing big waves. I come from Finland, where we're not known for having big waves. So it was something totally new to me. And I could feel the topic kind of like starting to really interest me, and I found myself, cutting a long story short, on a beach in Portugal, learning how to surf 2 years ago, and this topic of people surfing big waves and the question of like why would anyone put themselves in that situation kept going, the back of my mind, and I guess it really drove me to the story. And while I was in Portugal learning how to surf, I began asking questions. And I was lucky that I stayed at a place that was run by two people that were very well connected to the big wave surfing community, because this is a tight-knit community, not so easy to just, get in. So it was that week in Portugal in March 2018 that I got talking to some big wave surfers who opened up the sport to me, and the psychology and the fear, and I began to get more and more drawn into the topic, and I knew I wanted to speak to a woman who was surfing big waves. So I was lucky that in Portugal there was one woman who surfed the big waves in Nazaré, and I found out her name. She was called Johanna Nordblad, and I got her email address, and that's how it began. I emailed Joanna and introduced myself, and I told her that I'd recently been drawn to this topic and that I wanted to learn more, and that I was interested in hearing her story of why she surfs these waves, and that's how it began. It was through a video call like this, and it led to us getting to know each other, and one thing led to another.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really curious about, she brings up a lot of personal trauma and her fears, and she was very open about it in the film, which is one of the things that I really liked about it. I thought it was that was the emotional connection for me, that she brought these fears up and she brought those traumas up. And I just wondered if that was a worry for you as the producer and the director, because it seems quite vulnerable, even though this is a woman who's doing really tough sport, but she really opened herself up.
Yes, I think it's always a worry of how you go about telling a story. I had done some quite difficult stories in the past, and so I had some experience of how to work with difficult topics, and also the discipline that goes with that. How you kind of approach people and interact with them, and how you go about things respectfully. And that's how I worked with Joanna when she began to open up about what the real reason behind her relationship with the big waves was, and the whole kind of the background and the history began to unravel. I knew I was onto something really big and something that I had to be really sensitive with. And that's, I discussed it with Joanna from the very beginning. We were very open with each other, and I promised her that I'd treat her story with respect, and that we would, she would tell exactly so much, as much as she would want to. And I never wanted to put her in a situation where we would open up a jar and not be able to shut it at the end. So I also worked with a few organizations here in Finland. One of them is called Irti Huumeista. It's like an organization that helps people that have had problems with drugs, and also worked with another organization that helps adults who have been sexually abused as children. I worked with them, among others, on these difficult topics to make sure that I dealt with it correctly. It was really important to me.
That certainly comes across as your not light touch, but your sensitive touch in terms of, and I'm going to make an assumption here. It's because you're a woman filmmaker, and that you understand those emotions, and that felt really realistic to me. It felt like a really cathartic moment for her, but also well handled. So I salute you on that, because these things can be quite difficult and can very uncomfortable for audiences if it's not handled well. And the person who's revealing their personal fears and traumas, she felt like she was in charge, even though she was revealing things that were quite difficult. So that's a well handled film. I really, really salute you on that. So thank you. And Joanna, how did you meet Joanna? How did the two of you get together? Because you're both obviously in different sport spheres. So how was the connection? Was it Mina was the connection? Or
yes, yeah, Minna was the connection. So someday I get called from Minna, and she tell me about the Joanna, and I was like, wow. How can someone do that? And if there is anything I can do for help, I'm in.
Well, I mean, I also admire you. I have to say, you're a very admirable sports person in this as well. So you're saying that you can't understand how she does that, but I couldn't understand how you do the ice diving. I find that quite scary, I have to say. That was the bit that made me really nervous. I found it quite harrowing when the two of you were under the ice, but you were both so very calm.
Yes.
And I think that you'd be an excellent life coach, Joanna. I think that you really, really, you took all of the stress out of that very stressful situation. You were focused on her. You really, were under there. What's your thoughts and feelings when you're under the ice, especially when you've got somebody else's, life in your hands, so to speak? How do you feel when you're doing that?
How do I feel? I have been freediving like 20 years now in a top level. So I really have learned that like everyone can freedive. Everyone who can breathe, they can hold their breath. And holding the breath, and especially when you go to the water, it's like you get it's like I always say for me, it's the lazy person medication because I don't have to do like 10 hours meditation to get to the very relaxed point. It's like when you go to the water and you concentrate, and you have to concentrate because you do the breath holding. So everything happens like automatically. And because I have done it so long, and I have seen a lot of things about that, so I don't have to try to. I don't, I know. And I see beforehand if there is some problem, like if someone can't like get relaxed, then you can't dive.
Yeah, so it's the panic mechanism. You mentioned that a couple of times when you're talking to people, the panic mechanism. That's really interesting. And also, what do you feel that you learned from Joanna?
Surfing.
I thought for a first go, you were pretty good, I have to say. I was very impressed. So yeah,
and we shared like a lot of things, like deep thoughts and deep like feelings, and comparing to the like the how we take them and how we handle those things. Sorry, I can't.
So you're speaking in how you process those things, and I think that what really was the moment when the two of you, after your dive, she seemed very connected to you in that way that both of you had shared something quite deep, not just the deep water, but
I got the like lifetime friendship, I think.
Yeah. So Mina, you brought the two of them together. Do you, as well as surfing, did you also do a bit of free diving to find out how that was?
No, not yet. Johanna did manage to trick me into going into the cold water last year. We were in a meeting, and she surprised me and told me that we were going to go in and try the cold seawater afterwards. And she's got us all trying the cold, which is really good. And I'm grateful for Johanna for that, because it's such a stress release to go in there and come out and feel the effects afterwards. It's magic. But no free diving yet for me. I mean, Johanna runs courses here in Helsinki, and I have promised to go along, and I will come along. Collect my courage before I do that.
You don't need any courage in there. Just come.
I don't think I'll be doing either free diving or surfing at my age, however, with my terrible fear of sharks, but never mind. In fact, to go back to the big waves, how was the experience of filming the big waves? Because you had a specialist cinematographer, Tim Boyan. He makes his own films about big waves. It was really interesting. Why did you feel it was important to use his particular specialism on this?
I don't think there was any other way of getting it done than, having a specialist working with us. Me and my crew came from Finland, and, we'd never filmed in such conditions. And because in Nazaré, you also have the conditions that are very changeable. I'm always trying to tick off like risks of my list. And obviously the weather and the conditions were something that we weren't going to be able to control. But one thing that, we sort of could was like who was going in the water and, how experienced they were. And Nazaré waves are not a place to go in unless you know what you're doing. And so Tim was the only, cinematographer who went in there. He's one of the rare surf cinematographers who film in the action. Tim and I got to know each other in Portugal in January 2019 when me and my crew were there on a recce trip just to find out what the conditions were. And I mean, our kit was flying all over the place, and we really needed someone to tell us the best places to be for instance, it's a big area. And people that have been there know the spots where you get the best views of the waves. And so Tim advised me from the beginning, and we got talking over Skype, after, you know, me and my crew came back and we started planning how we were going to film the surfing action. And I mean, the first call we had on that, and Tim told me how he never sleeps the night before he shoots. You know, I knew this was going to be really dangerous, but he knew, you know, how to go about it. So we, you know, I hired rescue pilots, you know, one for him and two for Joanna. You know, once you've seen the film, you'll see that when someone surfs big waves, they don't, well, some people paddle in there. You can see that in the film too, but there is this action called towing, where the jet ski pulls the surfer onto the waves, and they do it as a team. So we had the film team, Tim on a back of a jet ski. We had Joanna with her rescue pilot Sergio Cosme, and then we had various extra rescue groups to catch Joanna or to catch Tim had he fallen in. The way it's done, I guess one of the sort of things I would love to tell everybody, because it sounds really scary, and it is. The camera crew gets their feet tied into the jet ski. Just imagine this: that you are sitting on this very powerful jet ski with obviously a very experienced driver, but you have this 12-kilo camera on you, camera and a housing. They weigh 12 kilos altogether, and so that you don't fall off, if the ski has to suddenly take off and move out of the way of a big wave, you have to have your feet strapped onto the thing, because you can't hold it with your hands. I mean, the whole setup is just, it's horrendous. That's how it's done. And that's how we filmed the surfing action. Tim was sitting at the back of a jet ski, and he has his red Epic weapon that he uses. And that's how it's done. We had a few days of doing it. Obviously, the conditions have to be right for Joanna. They have to be right for her to catch the waves. And then, everything else has to work around it. And we work around it. And that's how we did it. And then there's also some very beautiful calm shots of Joanna, catching the rope and, skiing behind the jet ski that we did in slightly calmer conditions. But yeah, that was how we did it. And then to help us, I had some drones up. I fixed GoPro cameras everywhere I could, just to make sure that, if anything happened or one of them fell off, one of the, GoPros fell off, we had a backup. And yeah, it was
a logistical nightmare, plus probably a lot of weather watching. I imagine there was a lot of weather watching on that, so I imagine the surfers seem to do that quite a lot.
There is that, and I had to learn that. We spent. I was very lucky that we had lovely, people helping, us learn how to use the, Wind Guru, which they use, and then we had also a land crew, because obviously there is the land angle that you see in the film that was done by Sake Kantosalo, and Sake was my crew from Finland, and so me and Sake were on the ground. I directed with the help of radio phones, and I could watch the action from the cliffs. I never went in the water myself.
I have to say I would never go in the water, but I have to come and visit you, Johanna, just to get over my fear. So I feel that I maybe should do that for my 60th birthday, just really get out there and do that. But one of the characters that I really liked and I feel that I didn't really get enough of was Joanna's mum. And I think it's maybe because I am a mum, and when she was talking later on, that was a really nice bit. She was talking about, this is what I wanted for my daughter, but it's not what my daughter wanted for herself, and that she had to come to that realization. And that she was really interesting, I thought, her mum. So maybe it's just because I'm a mum that perspective was really quite sweet.
It's so nice to hear this, because it's one of my favorite sort of parts of the film is the story with the mom and the relationship that Joanna has with her mom. I think, you know, moms are important. And, you know, as you hear in the film, you know, Joanna's mom was a bit of a rebel herself. She says that at the end. And I love that because, you know, it takes one to know one. And I guess it takes one to, you know, to bring up one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really nice point. Johanna, what would you say was the biggest challenge for you making the film?
The filming. Yeah. The day we were filming the under the ice scenes, there was it takes so much time. The situation here in Finland was that we were waiting the ice to come. And it was very warm here, and we went every day we checked is there enough ice, and the situation was that the ice wasn't thick enough that we could easily arrange the filming in a whole crew in a safe way.
Yeah,
and
so more weather watching then.
Yeah, more weather watching. Yeah, and because you know if the ice is thick enough, there can't be people standing on the ice if we are like diving under. So that was like that.
Had a very impressive array of tools, I have to say. It was a little bit like a horror movie because you had the drilling thing and the big. I was really impressed by your upper arm strength in sawing through the ice. But it was just a really nice atmospheric shot, and it set the scene again to go back to the moment where after you'd been and you were together around the fire. That was really nice. And Mina, what about you? What would you say was your biggest challenge in telling the story?
On the lake, in those conditions, well, it was kind of the unknown because, you know, me or my crew, we'd never done anything like that before. So, but because Johanna has, and it's what she does, you know, we went with her, and, you know, Johanna was the master there, and we sort of set ourselves safely where we could, and thankfully, you know, we managed to do everything that we planned. But it was a real challenge. The morning that we were going to go to the cottage, Johanna rang me up and said, "Oh, we have a problem." Guys, it's picking enough, and you know, when we only have like those 2 days or 3 days that both Johanna and Joanna, very busy athletes, were free, you know, there was pressure to try and get it done and safely, and there were so many butterflies in my stomach, I can't even tell you. But I think the whole experience really gelled the team together, and because we were at this lovely place where Johanna, you know, does her thing, and you know, we could go there and see her in her element. And right from the beginning, when I saw Johanna make the actual pool with those scary tools, it was the realization that this woman really does it for herself. She does everything herself. There's no one there to do it for her. She was out there sawing this ice and making everything possible. That, you know, the kind of respect for what she does and, you know, what we were about to do with her was just huge. And, you know, I'll never forget that weekend. And I don't think Joanna will ever forget that weekend. And yeah, you know, despite all the challenges with the conditions and the scariness of the whole thing, it was such a triumph for all of us.
I mean, it really is. I mean, the tagline, "The battle isn't on the wave," really sums up the film for me, because it's about that internal struggle that we all have. And as a woman, I would have to say you have shown women in a very good light. We are strong, we are capable, and I think it is a wonderful, wonderful film that I'm championing here. So I want everybody to watch. So thank you guys so much for joining me today, Minna Dufton and Johanna Nordblad. Thank you so much. And thank you for being part of Glasgow Film Festival.
Thank you for having us. We're honoured to be here and can't wait.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.